discuss some easy math. This math isn't anything to do with calculations as much as it just is to do with memorization. Roman numerals are something you'll see mainly on a prescription, usually whenever you're seeing the doctor write how much quantity to dispense. So you'll usually see the pound sign and then possibly some Roman numerals after that. Nonetheless, you'll need to know the entire gamut of Roman numerals, or at least toward the smaller end of them, so that you can just be knowledgeable in case you ever do see something a little different than just XX. So let's start out with this first slide that shows just some simple Roman numerals, and then we'll look at the rules as well. But first of all, 1, that's pretty easy. We're just going to have 1I, and that equals 1. I didn't put it on here, but 2 I's is 2, 3 I's is 3. The one that I didn't put on here that I can show you right now is IV. IV is 4. IV. That's actually read in Roman times as 1 before 5, since you can see right here that V equals 5. I was read as 1 before 5, and that is, of course, 4. X is 10. I skipped a few right there. You can do VI as 6, VII as 7, VIII as 8, and then IX. I told you 1 before 5 was 4. Now we can read 1 before X, 1 before 10 is 9. And then, of course, X is 10. SS should look familiar to you because we actually learned that earlier in the class whenever we were learning the pharmacy abbreviations. So SS is the Roman numeral for 1/2. Some bigger numbers here. I have D is 500. M is 1000. Whenever you think M, I think of like millennium, millennial. That means 1,000. A millipede has 1,000 legs. That's another good way to remember it. L is 50. Okay, letter L is 50. And then C, the letter C is 100. Sometimes you'll get a $100 bill and you hear it called a C note. That's a $100 bill because C equals to 100. So let's look at the rules for why does that 1V and 1X mean 4 and 9. Well, we'll start with rule number 1. If the letters are placed next to each other are of decreasing value, then add the amounts. So right here I have XXVII. Why did I choose that number? Because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and Super Bowl 27 was one of my favorite Super Bowls when we just thrashed the Buffalo Bills. So if anyone's a Bills fan, I apologize for bringing that up, but it made for a good reference here. So 27, so I'm looking at XX meaning 20, VII meaning 7. I'm going to add them together. If the letters placed next to each other are of decreasing value, then add the amounts. So XXVII, and that is 27. On to rule number 2 of Roman numerals. If the letters placed next to each other are of increasing value, then subtract the amounts. So I have, for example, IV. I is 1, V is 5. We're increasing. We're going to subtract it. I told you earlier, 1 before 5 equals 4. So IV, 5 minus 1 equals 4. I could do the same thing with 9. 1 before X, we're increasing value from 1 to 10. We're going to subtract 10 minus 1, and that would get you 9. So you can see how we get 4 and 9 from rule number 2. Rule number 3, we're going to perform the subtractions first, and then perform the additions second. One way I remember that is I just look as a plus sign is 2 bars, and the minus sign is 1 bar. So the minus or the subtraction sign is 1 bar, so it's first. The plus sign is 2 bars crossed over each other, so it's second. For the example here I have is 24, not a Cowboys Super Bowl. So now we're going to do the subtractions first. I'm going to do XX, which is 20, 5 minus 1, okay, 24. So XX plus 4 equals to 24. Notice we didn't add 10 plus 5 anywhere in there. We're going to do the subtractions first, 5 minus 1, and then the additions second. Roman numerals, you don't even really think about these rules much once you really get to know them. You just kind of know what they are. You know when you see XXIV, it's 24. Rule number 4, if a letter repeats 3 times, you're not going to get it to see it repeat a 4th time, okay? So 3 times maximum. For example, VIII equals 8. 9 is IX. equals 9, not VIIII. Now, some watches, if any of y'all have maybe an old school watch that has Roman numerals as your numbers for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, take a look at 4. Sometimes they'll actually put 4 slashes on there instead of IV. Why do they do that? I don't know. It's just watch tradition, I guess. But some watches don't adhere to that. I see more and more actually putting the IV on there. Someone that's a watch aficionado out there maybe could answer that for the class. So not sure exactly why they do that. But VIII is 8, IX is 9, not VIII. Too many I's there. All right, so real quick, again, this is a short lecture on Roman numerals. You're only going to see a small amount of what is covered. You just want to be familiar in ones that medication might be dispersed. To me, that's one of the most important ways to know it. So if they're going to dispense 20, they might put the pound sign and XX. They're going to dispense 30, they might put XXX for 30. Another Cowboy Super Bowl. XV, that is 15. And just X and V, really common number that you're going to see in a pharmacy. Know them in the full gamut of all the Roman numerals for the exam, though. Just because I don't think you'll see it in a pharmacy very often does not mean that you might not see it on the exam. So it's a short lecture. Just watch it over a few times if you need to, just to make sure you know it. But if that's just one more question you get right on the exam, you might as well listen to it a few times. That's it for Roman numerals.